Nice Dhamma seats. Homemade? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. I'm very happy indeed to be here on this occasion, to come back to Abhayagiri. Well, not really coming back, because every time I come here, it changes. So it's not the same place that I left. Coming back every couple of years. Last time I was here was June of 2016, when there was the 20th anniversary of Abhayagiri, and so a couple of years have gone by since that time, and the beautiful cloister area has been completed. The little house that served us so well for so long is gone, and it's a very powerful example of change, that the little house is gone, this whole central area is transformed. And just was reminiscing with some of the old-timers here, how we first set foot on this piece of land in 1995, just after Master Xuanhua had offered it to our community to be a monastery. And when we first came to visit, summer of 1995, there was this very steep slopes and the rugged forest, and there was this little slightly grungy bungalow and a few outbuildings, and personally I thought, great, perfect. But others who were with me thought, oh, this is going to be a lot of work. But it was, and it was great, and it was a lot of work. And so now, being here at this time, I feel particularly joyful that things have been handed on to the next generation. Ajahn Dhamma was a one-day-old anagarika when we moved onto the land the following year, June the 1st, 1996. He'd become an anagarika on May 31st, 1996. So he really was here from the get-go. And so he's very much a homegrown Abhayagiri Wadin. And then Ajahn Yaniko, also the other new co-abbot, was hatched as a monk here. First showed up as a surfer dude. He's somewhere else. As a surfer dude from down on the coast near Big Sur. Came here as a visitor after his father had given him a copy of a book of Ajahn Chah's teachings. So it's very lovely to me to see things being handed on to the next generation, and I feel that in modern times there's a great lack of that. This is known as the me generation, that people, not speaking of any of you individually, but in society it's very common that we just think about what I've got for myself and my living place, my insurance plan, my status, and then the rest can kind of look after themselves. And even people who love their children can still be like, well, the kids, they'll be all right. And so the mindset goes more towards just my life, my name, my things, my comfort, my status in society. That's a sweeping statement, but I feel we can all recognize that, and that the mindset that looks towards the next generation, or the next 2 or 3 generations, or 7 generations, as they say, that's getting weaker and weaker. But I feel it's important for us as practitioners of Dhamma, people following the Buddha's way, to kind of move in the other direction, to be thinking of the next generation and the generation beyond. So that the little kids who come today, the small ones who are sort of crawling around on the floor and being taught how to bow by their mums and dads, they're the ones this is for. So in 50 years' time, that they'll be the old wrinkled ones, and most of us will be gone. But I feel that it's important to think in those terms, even though some of you might be thinking, why do it for them? What about me? What about what I need right now? And certainly we have the importance and the interest of our dealing with our own lives, our own minds right now, but in terms of working in the world, I feel it's very important to be considering the generations that come after. Because if we don't think in that way, then we find ourselves very disconnected, out of tune with nature, and even though we might be trying to work for our own benefit or to be living in a way that is for our own comfort, our own fulfillment, and the more it's just for me, the more necessarily it will not be fulfilling. That makes sense? Because as the Buddha pointed out, that the more the mind thinks in terms of me and mine, the more it experiences suffering. He said, I am is a disease, like the I am, the atta, that self-feeling. It's like a cancerous tumor. It's like a burden. It's a heavy weight. It's a tension in the heart. So I feel the more that we can think of coming generations, and the more we can think of how our lives, our work, our actions can help each other, then the more we ourselves benefit, and also it brings great gifts for those who come after. So it makes me extremely happy to see 23 years after first putting a foot on the ground here in Redwood Valley, that this beautiful set of buildings have come together, and then up through the forest we have the dwellings for the monks and novices. There's about 25 kutis. There's the Casa Serena, the women's the guest house, and kutis for Debbie and the long-term women people who've been working here over the years. So there's a lot of physical amenities, but even more inspiring and delightful to me is to see there's a whole collection of young monks and novices, anagarikas, who I have not learned the names of. They've all arrived since I was last here, which is a good sign. It doesn't mean that I'm happy my memory isn't quite so good, but it's a wonderful sign that there's more and more people coming in, wanting to train here, and also just being in the monastery environment, just seeing how well swept all the paths are, how tidy all the rooms are. Everything is very carefully tended, and you get the feeling it's not just because the Ajahns visiting. But you feel this is the way the place runs all of the time, and that is a very, say, clear indication of the level of training and commitment and sincerity that there is in the people who come to live here and to work with the mind to develop the qualities of virtue, of mind training, the qualities of wisdom, and to let go of greed, hatred, and delusion. So this time of the year, the ending of the rains retreat and the kathina season, one of the aspects of the ending of the rains retreat is there's a particular ceremonies that we have as the group of people that have been living together for 3 months. They part company and go their separate ways. And the last full moon of the rains retreat, which was a few days ago, last Wednesday, then we have usually on the full moon and the new moon days we have a recitation of all of our rules, the patimokkha. On that one day in the year, the Buddha said, don't recite the patimokkha, but instead you have a special ceremony where you invite feedback from other people. You ask for correction from your friends in the holy life. And so it's called the pavarana, or the invitation. So you don't have to do the whole recitation, which takes 45 minutes, but you do have to open yourself for correction. Now, you might think it's a pretty uncomfortable thing to ask for feedback from all your friends and companions. Please, anything that about me that upsets you or you find irritating, please tell me about it. Now, most of us would think, oh dear, we would kind of shrink away from that, like, I don't want to know, don't tell me. But the Buddha, who is, as we know, was not only a great enlightened being, but he was a genius, a complete genius as a teacher. He said, if you were offered a choice between a pile of gold, a huge mountain of gold, worth a vast fortune, and someone giving you feedback about your conduct, you would be wise to ask for the feedback. That's more valuable to you than a big pile of gold. So on our ordinary human level, most of us would take the gold, right? Like no contest. So the Buddha was a genius at kind of getting our attention. Like, what do you want? Someone to tell you that they don't like the way you smell, or that the way that you talk, or that your kind of arrogance, or would you like a pile of gold? Yeah. So the Buddha gets our attention in this very skillful way. He says it's more valuable to you to get the feedback, because if your friends won't tell you what you're saying that is upsetting, or the way that you relate to others, or the way you see yourself, if your friends won't tell you where you are off balance, or where you're acting in a way that is unkind or disharmonious, how are you going to know? Because if we have a deluded perception, if we don't see things clearly, we don't know that we don't see things clearly. So often when speaking about what we call the three akusala mula, the three unskillful roots, greed, hatred, and delusion, people say, well, which is the worst of those? They say, I think greed is worst, or I think hatred is worst. In some ways, I think that delusion is the most difficult, because greed and hatred, they're kind of loud. You can tell when you've been greedy. You go, oh, I'm so full, I ate so much. Oh, I feel so uncomfortable, I'm so huge. I've got a greed problem, I weigh 300 pounds, Or anger, hatred, you're always fighting with people. It's easy to see, it's got like sharp edges. Delusion is not so easy to see. And so this kind of invitation for feedback is because we can't see for ourselves where we are making mistakes, where we are, say, upsetting others, or our behavior is out of balance. And so that it's helping us to see through our own delusions, our own distorted perceptions. So that's where kalyanamitta, spiritual friendship, is so important. So along with inviting that feedback, then also we have at the end of the rains retreat, the pansa, we have another little ceremony which is called asking for forgiveness. And also whenever somebody has been staying in a monastery for a period of time, or they've been on a 10-day retreat, at the end of the retreat, or when they've been staying, then when they part company, when you're setting off to go somewhere else, then you have this little ceremony of asking for forgiveness. Now, like any ceremony, it can be just a kind of token. Well, this is what you do when you say goodbye. You say, you kind of bow and you say that whatever I've done by body, speech, or mind, they have a Pali formula that you recite. Whatever I've done by body, speech, or mind, intentionally or unintentionally, that has been painful or offensive, I ask your forgiveness. And then the elder, the teacher, says, I forgive you, and please forgive me too. So that can be just a sort of token, automatic ceremony, or it can also be a skillful psychological tool. Because just as asking for feedback can be very important and helpful to us, also the recollecting that we have the capacity to forgive, to not carry negativity or grudges around. There's a Pali word patika, which means a grudge or a negativity or hatred. And that when you are parting company, the Buddha established this way of cleaning the slate, of letting things go, of saying, whatever I've done, even if I didn't know I did it, please forgive me for that. And the other person says, I forgive you, please forgive me too. So this is a very skillful thing. And even if it's just a ceremony, it's an occasion to be thinking in that way. Does that make sense? So that you can just be sort of not paying full attention to it, but you also know, well, this is the asking for forgiveness ceremony. So even if you are still carrying around a grudge, like, I'm really annoyed with what she said last week, and when you're carrying out that ceremony, you notice that you're carrying that grudge. If you follow what I mean, like, you realize, oh, okay, I want to forgive everything, but not that. There's that one piece I want to keep. I'm not going to forgive that yet. But even as we do that ceremony, we say the words, I forgive you, but then if in your heart you realize, No, not yet. Then at least you know that. That's clear in that moment, that there's something that you want to let go of, but you can't let go of it. So at that moment, that's clear. So I feel in terms of our practice, I was at the end of the Rains Retreat at Amravati, I was talking about this same theme. I feel that forgiveness is an aspect of Buddhist training that's often overlooked. We think about meditation, we think about wisdom, we think about dana, generosity, like say a kathina festival, making offerings to provide material support for the community and so on. But forgiveness is, who's ever been to a 10-day retreat on the theme of forgiveness? How many Buddhist conferences have there been on the theme of forgiveness? I'd be interested if anyone has. But it's not a kind of hot topic. But I feel that in terms of our training, it's extremely important, particularly in this aspect of spiritual friendship and looking out for each other, caring for each other, and say working together as a human family. Because it's very easy to carry around grudges. Your brothers or your sisters who've upset you, your fellow monastics who've annoyed you, upset you, your Ajahn who's failed you, maybe even he's just failed you because he's gone to live somewhere else, like, how dare you leave me, Ajahn? I'm not reading anybody's mind. So. Now you've lost Ajahn Pasno as well, so. But that we can carry each other around, particularly former spouses, ex-wives and ex-husbands. It's a kind of an old say. Ajahn Sumedho used to make a lot of this. Said, "May all beings be happy except him." Her, because he was married for a couple of years back in the 1960s. Luang Por Sumedho, when he was a graduate student in UC Berkeley, and he said the first year was really good. The second year was not. And so his ex-wife was a painful presence in his thoughts and memories for a long time. So he would speak from experience. May all beings be happy except, well, I guess her as well. And so he could see that, there's something that we do in our minds. We carry people around that we feel we've failed them, or they failed us, or we've been hurt by them, or there was conflict, misunderstanding. We carry each other around. So forgiveness for family members, friends, co-workers, people who've cheated us, politicians who've behaved badly and misused their role in society, the list goes on. So, but I feel forgiveness is really a very essential part of practice, the practice of Dhamma, because to forgive doesn't mean that you're approving of what everybody else does. Say, to forgive a politician who's misused public funds and hurt the lives of thousands of people, millions of people, you're not saying you're glad that they did that, but what you're doing is you're recognizing that more hatred is only going to make it worse. You're not condoning what they're doing, you're not agreeing or saying, I'm okay with your actions, but rather, I'm not going to hate you for this. I'm not going to carry you around. And that's a different thing. So that we can, be looking at those feelings of say, negativity or that grudge-bearing, carrying that harsh, tense feeling in the heart, and to recognize, well, we all make mistakes. The person that I'm living with, my ex-partner, or the monk in the next kuti, we all make mistakes, and that I ask for forgiveness. Please forgive me, because I know that I've done things that have upset you or displeased you or let you down, and that the capacity that we have to forgive and to recognize that is an important ability that we have, and we can strengthen that. We can say make that a powerful presence in our life, because just carrying around one set of 5 khandhas, just this body and this mind, is heavy enough. Carrying around a few other people as well, that's a lot of work. if you understand, what I mean. So that the more that we can see how the mind, say, carries those grudges, negativity, and to see, well, can I forgive this person? Can I forgive that? Can I, instead of nursing and carrying aversion, negativity, can I forgive them? And can I share the blessings of my life with that person? When we do the chanting of the sharing of blessings, the verses of sharing and aspiration, we say, may all beings, friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they all attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. So you're consciously sharing your good karma with people who are destructive and harmful. Are the politicians that we love to hate. Rather than wanting revenge and wanting to hurt them or punish them or lock them up, he said, please, may I share my good karma with you? Now you might think that's very foolish or weak, or it's going to just cause more trouble. But what it's pointing to is that more negativity is only going to make things worse. And if you want that person to stop behaving in the destructive, foolish, egocentric ways that they have, a bit more light in their world might help them to see things more clearly. That's the principle. So rather than wishing harm on the people that, have been difficult for us or have hurt us in our family or in our working life or in society, then rather than that we wish them well. Again, it doesn't mean that we are agreeing with the things they do, but we are refusing to hate, and we're ready to offer what we can to bring more light into their lives and into the world, and to benefit them not by going along with their activities, but by relating to them it's from the level of the heart, instead of just focusing upon their actions. So the Buddha encouraged this attitude of forgiveness. He said, hatred never comes to an end by hatred. Hatred is only ever ended by love. That's one of the most often quoted verses in the Dhammapada. And this is something that is, powerful and important for us. Now, often the most difficult person to forgive is ourselves. Other people, even though they might be challenging, particularly for Westerners, we find that we can be ready to forgive all kinds of other people, but for ourselves, we're the one person who's really awful, really bad, really not good enough, really should have done better. And so to forgive ourselves, to forgive our own weakness, our own dishonesty, or our own selfishness, our own cruelty, our own greediness, and so on, that can be even harder. But I would say developing the practice of forgiveness is part of that, just like with loving kindness, is to forgive ourselves. Can I forgive myself for not being perfect? Which again doesn't mean that I will pretend that all the unskillful and ugly things that I've done are really good and beautiful. No, but rather we all make mistakes. Can I forgive myself for not being perfect, for sometimes having acted in ways that are unkind or selfish or greedy or indulgent, dishonest? Can I forgive that? And can I recognize, well, that was poorly done. That was something that was said in an unskillful way. And to forgive ourselves, and then to use that recognition of what I said to Ajahn Amaro, that wasn't really thoughtful. That was just, I was trying to be funny, but it was really hurtful. You're wondering what I said? I did this, just making this up. So. Just random created offense, so that we, again, the Buddha said over and over in the teachings to recognize your mistakes or your transgressions as such, and to make the effort to do better in the future. This is called development in the Buddha Sasana, in the teaching. That's how we improve. It's not making excuses for all the unskillful things we've done and saying, well, it wasn't unskillful, it's just you misunderstand me. It's like, no, that was a cruel thing to do. That was unkind. That was greedy. That was untrue, the thing that was said. But yeah, that was poorly done. But now I recognize the results of that, and I'm consciously using the pain of recognizing that to help me to wake up. So that this is, I feel, a really useful principle for us all as human beings, that we acknowledge, okay, that was something that was selfish or greedy, it's stupid, there was a painful result, okay, let's put that pain to work. So many times people come to visit and talk about the painfulness, the grief of losing a family member, or something that's happened in their life, a marriage has come to an end, or their child has sort of said they don't want to speak to them anymore, and there's a heartbreak, there's a painfulness that's there, and so the mind easily dwells on that and grabs hold of that and gets lost in it, so over and over again I find myself encouraging people to say, well, the Buddha's advice is not to just make ourselves numb or pretend that grief is not there, that loss isn't there. And also not to go to the other extreme, to just sort of get lost in it and to say wallow or get completely overtaken by that feeling of sadness or loss. But instead, we take that pain and we use it to help ourselves wake up. So a number of years ago, there was a woman who came to visit Amaravati, and she told me this story, a very, very sad story about her own life. So she was taking a group of her own children and a group of other children to the beach, including a niece and a nephew. So she was the responsible adult and had this group of about 8 or 10 children that came with her on this trip to the beach. And she said she wasn't paying attention. She was just not, really doing her job, looking out for the kids. And her 8-year-old niece got swept away in the current and drowned. And she was the responsible adult there. And this little girl died. Her niece died on that day. And so she said, she was inconsolable, and it made this, she just was broken-hearted and couldn't stop crying. And her sister, the mother of the little girl who died, she was, obviously really upset and sad and deeply sad at the loss of her daughter. And then there was this conflict between them. How could you do that? This is terrible. You were in charge, and how could you be so stupid? And it's all your fault. And she said, so for 10 years, she just lived in this sort of locked cage, like trapped in a tight cage of self-hatred and grief. And then she said, after about 10 years, something in her just started to look at it in a different way. She said, well, I've been weeping for 10 years. I've been trapped in this misery and self-hatred. And so I'm only 45 years old now. How much longer am I going to live in this cage, locked in this tiny little tight box that I'm in? And so she said that was when she started to get interested in Buddhism and Buddhist meditation. And so she realized, well, I can't pretend that it doesn't hurt. And I can't make any kind of excuses. It really hurts, and I do feel really sorry, but does making myself miserable and feeling like I can never experience happiness of any kind ever again, does that help? And does this make anything better between me and my sister and her family? And so she started to meditate on those feelings, and I use this as an example because I felt she was extremely skillful in both acknowledging, I was careless, it was my fault, my name is on that. It was tragic and painful, and that child can't come back, and it's on me. But I still have my life, and I still have the ability to live and work in the world, and I can make the effort to live in a way that makes sure that I never do something as stupid or as unkind as that, and help others to not be that way either. So I can take the remorse and sadness that comes from this thing that's broken, it can't be fixed, and take that and use that as a way to bring more light into my life and the lives of others. And it was a very difficult balancing act, because she could see, well, part of me wants to sort of think my way through this and make it all right and kind of make it go away, and she could see, no, that's not it. It's not just thinking a way out of it, making it go away. No, it's painful, it's not fixable, but I don't have to make that all and everything of my life. I can take that painful event and I can use that as something that genuinely brings light into my life and into the lives of others by encouraging greater responsibility, greater clarity of mind, and the dangers of sort of becoming distracted or not looking after your responsibilities. So it's a bit of a painful example, but I feel it's a useful example, because for all of us, for most of us, we don't have those same kind of intense tragedies in our lives. We have at least small ones. About how many of us carry around those things that we've done, or the things that we've said, or aspects of our life that, and we just want to lock it away and not feel it. But we can take that painful feeling of either things that we've done or things that we've been on the receiving end of, the things that others have done to us. We can take that pain and we can use that to help us to wake up, so that we can put it to work, rather than just either try to push it away and pretend it's not there, or get completely lost in it. We can make that pain be our friend, our teacher. So this is really the essence of the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths. Idang dukkhaṃ. This is dukkha. Idang dukkhaṃ. That's the entry point into wisdom, is meeting dukkha, receiving that quality of dukkha, of, this is painful. And that's where wisdom begins. And so the Buddha said, I teach one thing, suffering and the end of suffering. And that I feel this kind of ability that we have as human beings to forgive ourselves, to forgive others, it's built around this a principle of how we handle dukkha, how we handle suffering and pain and difficulty in our lives. So it's interesting that the name Abhayagiri, Pali, the Pali name Abhayagiri means fearless mountain. Bhaya is fear, Abhaya means fearless, Giri is mountain, fearless mountain. So when we first opened this place in 1996 and Thai people started coming along, and they said, Abhayagiri, why is it called Forgiveness Mountain? Because in the Thai language, Abhay means to forgive. Ko Abhay, ask for forgiveness. So they said, why is it Forgiveness Mountain? We said, well, it's not Forgiveness Mountain, it's Fearless Mountain. But I feel it's a good misunderstanding, because it's the two are not disconnected, because the Buddha he talked about different kinds of giving, of different kinds of generosity. So amisadana, like the kathina offerings, these 12 different sets of people making offerings of this robe cloth and all of the other things that people have brought today, all the flowers that were created by the flower people, Yom Apun, where is she's probably still, oh she is, Apple the flower deva and all her deputy devas, and all the food devas in the kitchen, and Nit and Debbie on the money desk, and and everybody else who's helped out. This kind of material giving is called amisadana, helping on a material level. So that's one kind of generosity. But the next level of generosity, the Buddha called abhayadana, or the giving of fearlessness. And so the way that forgiveness and fearlessness are related is that if I'm not carrying a grudge around about you, if when you meet me, you know I'm not feeling any kind of negativity towards you, I'm not resenting what you said last year, or that or that you are, say, being judged by me. You know when you meet me that I'm not carrying any kind of negative feelings. You can relax. If you meet me and you know I've got all kinds of opinions about you, about American people, or Thai people, or Indian people, or Sri Lankan people, or Vietnamese people, or American people, English people, that then if someone's carrying around a lot of negativity and aversion, when you meet them, you feel tense, you feel uptight. So abhayadana, the giving of fearlessness, is what you can give through your attitude. So the Buddha spoke of the 5 precepts as the 5 great gifts. So that, because it's not just to do with carrying a grudge around, so he said, if you refrain from killing living beings, you give to other living beings incalculable freedom from fear, freedom from stress, freedom from oppression, and you give to yourself freedom from fear, freedom from stress, freedom from oppression. If you don't steal things, if you take the precept to not steal, similarly, you give infinite, incalculable freedom from fear, freedom from distress to others. When you come in the room, people don't slide their handbags under the chair. Because she's not going to steal anything from me. I don't have to worry about him. Or, I don't have to put my stuff away just because that person's come in the room. If you're known as a thief, or someone who's always helping themselves, then you will slide your bag under the chair, or you will kind of lock the cupboards. So that if people know you're honest, you're not going to lie to them, you're not going to flirt with them, you're not going to harm them in any way, you're not trying to get something from them, then when you show up, they say, oh, hello, good to see you. But if you are someone who's going to be deceitful, or going to rob them, or misuse them, or hurt them, then you tighten up to protect yourself. That's how we are. So by keeping the precepts, we give fearlessness, we give freedom from fear. The deer around here are very casual. I don't know how it is now, but they used to even wander up onto the deck of the house and eat the plants in the hanging baskets. And sometimes you come out and look at them and go, I'm having breakfast, do you mind? You know? They're very, very laid back. So that's a wonderful thing. Even the forest creatures here don't have to worry about the humans too much. Because they know we're not carrying guns, we're not dangerous. So when we are, we give full attention to the precepts, then this is, we might think that the precepts are kind of fencing us in or limiting us, but they are what the Buddha called mahadana, the 5 mahadana, the 5 great gifts. So you might not think that by you keeping the precepts that's a gift to others, but it is. If you see that you become the person that people are happy to be working with. That when you're around, they're at ease with you. That's a kindness. That's a gift. Of course, if you keep the precepts and then you kind of grasp it and you think, you're so lucky to have me working with you. You're really blessed to have me in your office. The department is really a much better place that I'm around. Then that's like the ego grabbing hold of that principle, which is not very helpful. But if we can recognize that by keeping the precepts, then that is a way of granting fearlessness. It's a way of living and speaking and acting so that there's a minimum that you have to forgive yourself for. And that it's a gift to yourself, it's a kindness to yourself, and it's a kindness to the people around you as well. So that the results of living that way, then you make your own Abhayagiri. You are a fearless mountain. You're a kind of your own little mountain. Your own little portable world is a generator of fearlessness. That's what you bring into the world. That people don't have to be worried about you. You're not a danger to them. You're not someone who's going to harm or cause them any difficulty. You're a blessing in the world. So today, I feel extremely happy to be here, to see the things have been passed on to the next generation, things flourishing in a good way. Yesterday, we went up to view the devastation from the forest fires. Last year, the kathina, Abhayagiri kathina, was held down in Fremont at Ajahn Amaro Monastery, Bhutanusorn, because the fires were still kind of smouldering in this area, and the area was devastated. It was kind of interesting to go up there yesterday to KPY, the Thai forest monastery land just over the ridge, which was they had something like 12 or 15 kutis and a 3-story house, and there's one kuti left. Everything is just pao mot, burnt to the ground. There's just thousands of dead, burnt trees standing. But it was interesting to see the manzanita and the madrone trees in particular, just whoof, the green, rich, strong green growth is just springing up from the roots. The Douglas firs and the oaks are definitely they've gone, but the manzanita and the madrone trees, they just think, fire? What fire? Poof! And this powerful, fresh green growth is sort of springing up through the blackened branches. So maybe it's not a very good analogy, but it seemed to me like with me and Lumpur Prasanna kind of burnt out and gone, you got the new, vigorous spring growth blasting up from the roots. Ajahn Karunanama was blushing. Skeptically blushing. But that, I feel it's a reasonable image to see that the older generation has done its bit and has moved on, but then the next generation just rises up and fresh growth comes into the system. So I wish every blessing to the new co-abbots. I was very, very happy to know that they had taken on the responsibility for looking after this place, and as I was saying, the strength and vigor of the community and the way that people here look after the place and the way they kind of carry themselves and the level of training I can see is very impressive and gladdening to the heart. So sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I wish good fortune and every blessing on all further future efforts to the community here. A1.
Andamayano Vadagataya Sadhu Karanga Dhamase Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu Anumodami. Okay, that wraps up our ceremony, celebration, Kathina 2018 for the day. Just again to express my great appreciation for Ajahn Amaro to come and join us, Ajahn Sudanto, all the other visiting monks who have come for this occasion. And we have 22 monks here today, in the novices and anagaricas, and several hundred friends and supporters of the monastery to come and join us. It's been very special and cute. And so we'll just be wrapping up, cleaning up, and anybody who can stay to help lend a hand, putting mats and cushions, gathering up them, removing flags, and Tansampano may have some help with that, suggestions for that.
May I make a few directions?
Please.
So for those who, there will be two we're going up in a second, so for those of you who want to sort of jump on